Hello, everyone. So, I know all of you, basically, but my name is Robyn Thompson-Duong, and I'm really happy to be here in this beautiful space in the Norwell Public Library. I actually grew up in Marshfield, so, fairly close. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about me, some of my inspiration, my process, and kind of the meaning behind some of my paintings. So, I'm gonna start way back. When I was in like 5th grade, I discovered Mary Cassatt, who is a female painter, impressionist, and I was hooked and decided then that I was gonna be an artist, right? And I have painted, drawn since then. It's my kind of first love. I noticed that growing up and taking lots of art schools in high school, that the artists that I was seeing didn't look like me, right? It was always white artists, usually men, and so I didn't really see where I fit into that world. And it wasn't until college where I discovered artists of color like Basquiat, Faith Ringgold, Romeo Bearden, and then I, got a little bit more confidence. I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts from Syracuse University, and I took lots of different classes, lots of different genres. I was doing, printmaking, ceramics, but painting was kind of almost like a secret passion of mine. But I really didn't quite know what I was going to do. When I graduated, I ended up, not really going into the art world for a while because when I was in school, I didn't see a representation of myself. I didn't see it in the professors there, or in my fellow students, or in the artists that we were studying. I did eventually go back to school and got a master's from Lesley University so that I could teach. And I became an art teacher for many, many years. I taught in private school and public school, and I loved it, but I wasn't feeling like I was authentically myself, doing what I really was passionate about. So I decided to really pursue my painting. And I was still teaching, and I started entering shows and doing it a little bit more seriously. The pandemic happened, and then I really did it seriously. I quit my job and became a full-time artist. Let's see, where am I? My work has definitely evolved over the years. If you've ever seen any of my older paintings, other shows, my work, I think, is more vibrant and colorful and going a little bit more towards the abstract. My inspiration, I have several points of inspiration. I'm obviously interested in painting women of color. That is, what I love to do the most. Probably because I am a woman of color, but also because I have really strong role models as women. I was surrounded by, really strong women when I was growing up. My mother, my grandmother, my aunts. They've all had a very positive influence on my life, and I've always wanted to be like them. Beautiful, proud, independent, and joyous. And I try to imbue that in my portraits. Try to have a joy about them, most of them. I'm also inspired by nature. My favorite places to go, this is the botanical gardens. I love arboretums and insectariums, which I discovered in Montreal this year. I feel really connected and kind of free in those spaces. And what I'll do is I'll take a lot of pictures, wherever I am. Say at the Arboretum, I'll take hundreds of pictures. I see cool things wherever I look. I see beauty in a lot of different things. And then I'll take them back to my studio, and sometimes I'll make a painting, or I'll be inspired by it and create something. I do like to also paint outside. I haven't done it in a while, probably because of the pandemic. But I really do like plein air painting. That's when you go outside, bring all your materials and create that painting outside. But a lot of times now what I do is I'll bring an image back to my studio, like this painting here. It's a landscape, so it's based on several different photographs, kind of composited, and then my kind of interpretation of a landscape. So I like obviously lots of color and texture, and it's a little more abstract, right? It's not a landscape you would actually see. There are also, speaking of marshes, I think one of the reasons why, I have lots of marsh paintings. I think the reason why is because I grew up in Marshfield, in Brent Rock, around marshes, and we used to go for walks. And I don't know, I have a love for them. They remind me of home. And I'll even have my husband, I've had him pull over on the side of the road because there's been a beautiful like sunset that just makes the marsh glow. And I'm like, I gotta get a picture of that. You know, so that's one of my favorite things to do is paint marshes. I also have lots of artists who inspire me as well. I love the work of Boston artist Paul Goodnight. There is also an artist named Jeff Donaldson who I'm really, over the past few years, I've been really inspired by him. He helped found a group of black artists out of Chicago, and the group was called Afrocobra. And the group established what was considered like a black aesthetic in the 1960s. And one of the characteristics that I think I'm really drawn to is their use of really bright colors, which I like to use in my own work. Speaking of bright color, I use a lot of color in my work because I love color. I think it evokes feelings of joy and can convey feelings or emotions, because we assign certain colors, certain emotions or feelings. So it helps to kind of make my point clear in my paintings, give it a mood or a vibe. I usually decide early in my process what colors I'm going to use. I'll look at a color wheel and kind of choose colors that I think will go well together, and I'll live with that decision for a little bit before I actually start painting. And then I'd like to do acrylic pour. So these paintings over here are an example of acrylic pour, which is a process where you use a lot of paint. You mix lots of different things into the paint, a medium that makes it really thin so that you can actually pour it and it levels the paint. You put silicone in it, a little bit of drops of alcohol, mix that all up, and then you pour the paint on top of your canvas. And you can do lots of different things. The way I like to do it is swipe the paint off, and what happens is you get all these little cells that reveal, because the paint is disturbed, so whatever's underneath is going to like kind of pop up so that you can see lots of different layers. This is a very fun process. It's very messy. And it's difficult to do this process on large paintings, right? So what I have done, it also dries really, really slow because the paint is thick. So what I've kind of learned and played with and tweaked is the process of using lots of thin layers of paint, spraying alcohol in between those layers, and I get cells. I get these like revealing of layers underneath, which you can see here, right? All these little circles, and you can, when you look at the ones in the front, you probably can see on the large portrait some of those as well. I really like the idea of colors playing with each other and what happens when one color interacts with another color. So that's kind of how I start my paintings, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do on top of that. And it's usually a portrait, sometimes it's a landscape, or some other floral design. So that's my process. I like to do that because it's a lot quicker. And then recently, as I use acrylic paint, I'm very impatient. So I have dabbled in oils, and I just, I don't like how long it takes. Ooh, the rain, it's coming down. I don't like, gotta talk louder. I don't like how long it takes to dry. Acrylic dries in minutes, right? You can do a oil painting, it takes months to dry, completely dry. So I like to do this process of my backgrounds, and then if I don't paint on top of it with more acrylic paint, what I will do is use graphite, which has been really fun. So these paintings and the smaller portraits, those are pencil drawings on top of the acrylic paint. And I really like that I can make the graphite opaque, or I can make it see-through and you can really see the color underneath. So I like that effect. What I have to do is then spray the graphite with a fixative, because graphite is very smudgeable. So I spray it, it fixes it to the surface so that it doesn't smudge, and then I can go back in and paint more on top of it, or draw more on top of it. And then I put a matte medium on top of that so that the graphite's not shiny. So I don't know if you've ever taken a pencil and drawn on something, it has that like sheen to it. It's kind of cool, but it makes it difficult to actually see the drawing from certain angles. So I just put a matte medium on it so that it's a little bit easier to see. And then as far as kind of the general meaning of my paintings, they all have different meanings, but they have to do with joy and like finding magic. So I feel like my paintings are a little magic surrealism going on. And I paint black women because, again, like I said, I am a black woman. And I kind of want to control how I am portrayed, how women of color are portrayed, because there's so many negative stereotypes out in the world. And this is my way of, saying, this is how I am, how the women that I know are out in the world. I want to paint women as joyous, vulnerable, soft, kind of as the antithesis of the stereotype of a strong black woman. I know we are strong because we have to be, but sometimes it's exhausting when you have to be strong all the time. So this is like a radical softness. Like, I am a black woman, but I too can be vulnerable. I cry. I have feelings other than, what the stereotypes are out there. So that is my work. I hope you enjoy it, and feel free to ask me questions and look around. Yes, sure.
Being familiar with your art, I've seen it grow. The different emotions that you're talking about, you express in your paintings, can you give us maybe discuss the paintings that are in front of us now, telling us, giving us an idea of the emotions there?
So I was just actually talking to Auntie Robyn about this painting here, and I feel like there is a vulnerability and a sadness in the kind of expression of this woman, and it's feels very soft and invulnerable, which I think is something that you don't typically think of when you think of a woman of color, like that we have to be strong and powerful and in charge, and so this one is more of I feel like more of a goddess kind of icon where she's strong and powerful, but she's still soft and graceful. And then that's actually a self-portrait. And I think this one just is more like inquisitive and wondering about the world and you know, her place in it. Yeah. And then some of the other ones, like the ones that I pointed out with the acrylic pour, those are very joyful. As a matter of fact, this one is called Joy here. This is lush, like lush garden, and the expressions on the faces here are just very joyous, happy. This one's Frolic. I really love this one. It's little, but I love her. Her little happy face. Yeah. Sometimes I do. Before the pandemic, I would get friends. Actually, my husband would help me find. We have lots of friends. He has lots of friends, so I'd be like, ask if she'll pose for me, and he, you know, because I'm shy. So I do like to have models, but then when I can't or when I couldn't, I would just use you know, images of women that I find online, or sometimes, you know, like a famous person, or myself, right? 'Cause I can always, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, if I feel like painting someone, I always have myself. But I do want to get back into getting live models into my studio. I haven't done that since before the pandemic when we were living in Boston. So now I have a large studio, a lot more space where I can do that much easier. But yeah. Any other questions?
Robyn, how much does a painting like that go for, the one behind you?
I have a price list over there if you want to take a look.
I just figured the video audience, they want to know these things.
Well, large ones are, yeah, the large ones definitely cost more money. But I do also sell prints of my work on my website.
How many hours did this take?
This took me, let's see, I started this before we went away. So from early August, I started it, and I finished it like the couple days before I hung it. So it's the process of doing the painting underneath, that takes a long time, especially with the large one. With the smaller ones, it's easier because I can just hit it with the blow dryer in between the layers. But with this, I had to like really wait for it to dry before I put the next layer on. So, and then this is actually something new. This one and this one, I have these really cool mural markers. They're these thick markers that you can use to paint a mural. And I got them for a project, and I never used them. So I tried them on these canvases, and I really liked it. So there's a combination of acrylic paint, the paint markers, you can see the more translucent, brighter colors, and then paint pens, which I love, to get the detail and texture. And then the portrait itself is all done with acrylic paint and paintbrush, traditional. Mm-hmm.
You also offer classes.
I do.
And this is mostly acrylic.
Yes, so I offer classes, drawing classes, painting classes. I have a class on color theory for adults and for kids. So I have adult classes and classes for kids.
People with no experience, or they have to be.
No, you don't have to have any experience. I've had people with no experience. I've had people come to me that are artists themselves, and they just want to take a class. Because a lot of times when an artist takes a class, it's usually because they don't have time, and they just want to like force themselves, like this is a chunk of time that I am going to sit down and paint. I haven't taken a class in a while, but I need to do that too, because it's important to keep your education up, and you learn things from other artists as well. So. Mm-hmm. Hmm?
Do you plan on hosting any sip and paints going into the fall?
So I do offer like paint parties. I would like to offer some in the fall. It's just hard to like advertise because I need to have a certain amount of people to make it, worth my while to actually host a party. But yeah, if anyone's interested in having a painting party, I do that as well. Anyone else? Well, feel free to look around, and if you have any other questions for me, I'm right here. And thank you for coming.